We have a repeat offender with us today. We have Dan Lohrmann, who is, prior to us changing the format to focus more on COVID, was with us on a pretty much monthly basis, sometimes pairing up with Richard Steenan. And boy, that really scared the pants off us. So what we're going to talk about today is, look what we're doing right now. Everybody that can, not everybody, many people who can, are working from home. And that's wonderful, but it does pose cybersecurity threats if you don't do certain things, right, Dan?
Absolutely, guys. It's great to be with you again. And yeah, it's an important topic. So, yeah, I mean, it's widespread. People working from home, and we're going to go over the tips on what people should be thinking about when they're doing that.
All right. So why don't we kick it off with what in your mind? I know you have a list of them here right in front of me, but in your mind, what is the most important thing that someone that's working from home should do to protect themselves from letting the bad guys into the office network?
I think the first thing is really kind of understanding your situation. I mean, there's a bunch of tips. I give you my top tip, but I guess really, honestly, my number one tip is know what your company policy is, your government policy is, whoever you work for. What are the rules? You know, what are the policies, procedures? You know, is it a home PC that you own? Is it a work PC?
Kids playing on it?
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of people are using, they rushed home and they're still using their home PCs with that. So the challenge of, know what your baseline is. What are the rules, procedures, policies? I think that's the number one tip, and make sure you're following those. But then obviously 50% of people plus, when a lot of surveys are saying they're on their own. I'm not getting a lot of help from work. I'm not getting help from the help desk, isn't very helpful, et cetera. And so because of that, we're going to go through some of the tip specifics. But number one, I think know what the policies and procedures and policies are from your office.
All right. What about encryption? How do you go about doing that, making sure that the stuff is as protected as it can be?
So encryption end-to-end is absolutely, making sure that your PC, VPN, virtual private network, if you've got that, there's some free downloads you can use, again, using the one from the office, but making sure that your data, both at rest on your PC and also the data in transit to and from work and different connections is encrypted. And there's a lot of good VPN products out there. Again, I would say a lot of companies are saying, use the one we give you from the office, use that. But there are some really good VPNs, products that you can download and use yourself. Again, email encryption, the same thing. Making sure that you have an email encryption product to make sure that you're doing business from home, that it's encrypted.
And of course, because sometimes bad things do happen, you want to make sure you back stuff up, right?
Absolutely. So backups, we all think about them, but there's some basic premise. Maybe at the office, it's an automatic backup that happens. Maybe now you're using a home PC. Maybe you're using a work PC, but it's not being backed up. So making sure that at a minimum, it's really not that hard. You can literally get simplest way, you get a USB drive for $5-7 now that are like, literally 30, 40, 50 gigs, and you can plug them in and take at least those data files. I mean, some people say back up your whole desktop, but at least those data files, those important files you've got, make sure that they're backed up regularly and that you can restore them. A lot of people do the backups, but then they find out the backups actually are bad and they can't use them, which is a big challenge, right? So your ability to restore the backups as well, test that out if you can, but making sure you've got regular backups. And if you were to get ransomware or some other, some bad actor's going to encrypt your desktop, your data, then at least you've got a good backup you can use.
Yeah, I have one of those terabyte ones sitting on my desk. Plus, I use a service. I won't name it. I don't want to give them a free plug, but I use the online service as well, so I double back up. So
and you can back up to the web. Certainly you can back up to a cloud. A lot of good backups there. Yeah, I just say
Google Drive lets you store quite a bit, right? I mean, that's a pretty liberal one since it's free. So
Absolutely.
Free is
agree.
good, yes.
yes. Well, and I've been working from home on and off, doing a fair amount of work from home since way back in 2001 when I first started at the radio station. And what I always did was just back up everything on my home machine and put it on some kind of drive and take it to the office, and then back up everything on my office machine and put it somewhere safe at home, figuring that both of those buildings aren't going to burn down on the same day, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're
And
you know,
the
one of
cloud
them might
helps with
burn
that as
down,
well. So.
but not both of them on the same day. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's
Good move.
what about passwords? I mean, like, we've come a long way since the password being password or ABC 123 or something like that.
I think that's yours, isn't it, Matt? ABC 123. So
Yeah.
Absolutely. Passwords is, I often give the people say that for the consumer side of things, whether it be your bank accounts, your email, whatever you're doing, really, you should be using two-factor authentication. And still, it's like, it used to be 10%. I know we've talked about this on the show before. It used to be about 1 in 10 people would use two-factor authentication or two-step authentication, even for like Gmail, Facebook, different websites, social media websites, Twitter. But it's free, and I highly encourage you to use it. Two-factor is the best way to go, really, for all the things you're doing online. It's not that hard to do. I'm not going to explain the whole process now, but go online, look at whatever service you're using, every app you're using. But then when you do have those passwords, making sure that you don't reuse them from home and work, change them regularly. Make sure that, you're not using that, top 20 list, like is that 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or, password, test, that kind of thing. So those default passwords, really important, especially when you get an app. You get a home app for, we talked about Internet of Things. You get these devices. The first thing the bad guys look for is those default passwords that come out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I use both. I use two-factor authentication, and then I never use the same password twice. And I keep a little black book in my desk because I can't remember some of them. You create them and you go, oh, darn, what was that? And so, and then, of course, when you do forget, you just reset it, and so you got a fresh one, right? So,
yeah, that's been my de facto security system for some time now. I will forget a password and create a new one about once a week, it seems like. So, and they're all different. They're all some combination of, some place and some number and a name or something like that. I try to make them
and a lot of people really encourage, really these really complex passwords. They found that actually the better way to do it is pick a phrase like Michigan State, bingo or something. Put them in.
I wouldn't pick
phrase.
That would not be one of mine.
That may not be good. Whatever it might be, something you're going to remember.
Yeah,
3 words. I obviously don't want it to be too common, like Michigan State football, that kind of thing. I was thinking to say Michigan State football, but you can change some of the characters, an A to an @ symbol, that kind of thing, to add some complexity to it. But it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be just a phrase, which is longer, which can actually be more effective.
Yeah, I look at some of those suggested passwords when they want to help you out, and it's like, God, if I could never remember that. It's all these symbols and signs and this, that, and the other, and I don't think that's particularly useful. Of course, you can look it up, in your password where you save them when but at the same time. But software updates are really, really important. I mean, that seems to be where a lot of the vulnerabilities come in, particularly with big companies. Big companies are the worst at this, aren't they?
Absolutely. Software updates, for your desktop, for your phones, for your apps, making sure you've got the latest at the very basic level. I tell people, if you're using your home PCs and stuff, people, maybe they haven't got that update from McAfee or Symantec, Norton. A big tip that a lot of people don't know about is a lot of the ISPs offer free, and free is good, right? Free, basically Norton Home or McAfee security, basically to cover kind of the AV antivirus, but it does anti-malware, it looks at ransomware, those kinds of things. It looks at a lot of those common threats, and it comes with your bundle. Many people who are listening probably already paying for that. So look for that free bundle. Make sure it's constantly getting updated. You have to keep those signatures updated, but then actually the software itself. So the software one, really should be updating your iPhones, that kind of thing as well. But also your computer apps, you're running the old version, you're not running the latest versions of your software. That's a big challenge.
One of the things I wanted to ask you was, are you a fan of letting updates install automatically, or do you want the machine to notify you of specifically what's being updated?
Good lawyer answer. It depends. I'll tell you, for me, certain things, I do let automatically run. There are certain apps that we're running, with our company, for example, and our headquarters out in California. I'm here in Michigan. Where we're running certain software where we only want to be able to update it after we know it's been tested. So it's kind of like, what's the sample size, right? How many people are doing this? What's your level of trust in the automatic updates? The other thing is, you do sometimes hear about, certain updates that are problematic, like don't apply this latest, Patch Tuesday patch for this, system and stuff. And we'll get an urgent message from our system administration team saying, don't, go in and don't apply this patch. But by and large, we do automatic updates on a lot of our things. I think many viewers could benefit by just doing those automatic updates. There are times where that can run into problems, especially if it's mission critical kind of applications or processes that you may want to have more of a hands-on, manual approach.
Okay. Where can people go to get more of these kind of tips? I know that your security mentor offers a place for those, right?
Yeah, there's actually a web. I'll just mention to you guys. There's a link. I know, Mike, we could probably put it in the article or make it available to people at securitymentor.com. We put out a white paper which has a lot more detail, and this is kind of high level. Some of you are like, give me the nitty gritty. How do I make sure my Wi-Fi routers, got the latest updates, and it gives a lot of different tips in about 5 or 6 other categories. So, and you can just go to securitymentor.com, and it's a white paper called Transitioning to a Remote Workforce under white papers. You can download it there for free. It's a great resource. I would just say, there's a lot of really good materials out there on the web on this. Is first came out in March. There wasn't a lot of good material out, but I just encourage people, take 1 or 2 practical steps, because a lot of people say I'm overwhelmed, it's too much. But a lot of these things are not that hard to do. Use the security built into the devices you've already got. People say, is my Wi-Fi router secure enough? Is this device secure enough? Are you even using the security? Are you even turning it on in those devices? So I would highly encourage you to take a look at those mission critical apps and make sure they're updated and that you're following those tips.
Okay, and this is where you get to do the shameless plug now. So if people want to reach out to you, how do they do that?
Lohrmann at securitymentor.com. Feel free to shoot me an email.
And we might mention that Dan worked for the state of Michigan for 20 years. 17,
National Security Agency for 6, and Lockheed Martin and Mantech in England for 7, with top secret installation base that I can't tell you where it was.
Traditional 4-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life. But LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.